Hello everybody, this is Zoe from No Safer Place, and today, if you can see my t-shirt, you'll probably know what I'm talking about. That is right, I am here to talk about season 3 of Sex Education. I'm a huge fan of the series, and if you're familiar with my channel, you will likely know that I talk a lot about books and all things bookish. So I thought we would have a little chat about season 3 and also share some books that I think you might enjoy if you like watching Sex Education. So let's get chatting. I have so many thoughts on season 3. That is pretty much the main reason why I wanted to do this video, because Sex Education was just amazing and I have a lot of thoughts. I'm going to speak about some of the themes that I think were important first, and then go through some of my favourite characters and how I think their journey was this series. I would also like to mention, this is not a spoiler free video. If you have not seen season 3 or seasons 2 or 1 for that matter, do not watch this video. There is a lot of spoilers in it, and I'm going to be talking about everything from the beginning of the series to the end of the series, and that's the tea. First thing, when the series started, that opening montage was absolutely amazing. There's always sex at the start of every single series, usually at the start of every episode to be fair, but this montage was just incredible and I absolutely loved it, so I thought that that was worth a little shout out at the beginning because amazing representation. One of the most important themes to me this series was disability being represented in such a popular show. I know it may not be important to a lot of you, but coming from a disabled person, seeing disabled representation on such a popular show is just absolutely incredible. And also what I liked is that they didn't make him a very likeable character. Usually in programs, if disabled people are depicted, they're usually depicted as vulnerable and shy and timid and just really nice, kind people, which a lot of us are, but also a lot of us aren't very nice and do horrible things like deleting people's voicemails. So yeah, seeing that representation from Isaac was absolutely incredible. And a scene that I think is worth a mention is the scene between Maeve and Isaac. It's not quite a sex scene because obviously they don't have sex, but they are really intimate and they ask each other what feels nice, and she asks him what he can feel and what he enjoys, and they kind of just get consent from each other, which I think is just really important. It was such a beautiful scene, like honestly it gave me goosebumps. So although I didn't particularly like Isaac and still haven't forgiven him for the whole voicemail situation, that scene was beautifully done and I loved it. Which leads me on to my first bookish recommendation. It is The Ultimate Guide to Sex and Disability. Like, it covers a range of disabilities, physical disabilities, mental disabilities, invisible illnesses, everything. Like sexual positions to help, various resources that you can use, sex toys, how to deal with pain during sex. It's just incredible. It is quite a heavy read though, so maybe one that you can dip in and out of and just read the parts that are relevant to you. This one was quite expensive, but it is amazing, especially if you're disabled yourself and wanting to look for ways to kind of spice up your sex life. Okay, the next theme that was kind of important in this series that hadn't really been explored in the previous seasons was money. There was a lot of shame about how much money you have and how you feel like you can't bring people home if you're embarrassed. Obviously that was in terms of Ruby and her house. Her friends had never been to her house. Otis had never been to her house because she was really ashamed of where she lived, because she gives off this aura of I've got tons of money when in reality she hasn't. And also even in terms of friendships, when Amy pays for Maeve's trip on holiday with the school and Maeve isn't comfortable with it when she finds out, but Amy doesn't see a problem with it at all because her family are rich and have all this money to spare. I think it's really interesting to see the different dynamics at school and how people feel about money and how it can interfere in a friendship really. I thought that was a really important part of the series. And friendships. So many great friendships in this book. Otis and Eric, obviously we're used to their amazing friendship. That friendship did take a little bit of a backseat this series, I kind of felt like it was a real life friendship in regards to, even though you have a best friend, sometimes you don't speak to them properly for weeks or months at a time, and then suddenly something happens, like your mum ends up in hospital and nearly dies when she gives birth, and that person is just there by your side without you having to ask, and they're happy to sit with you for hours and be that shoulder for you to cry on and tell anyone that's getting involved to fuck off, which is basically Eric and Otis. And yeah, that scene at the vending machine kind of broke me. Moving on to another scene that broke me, Amy and Maeve. When they said they were going to be each other's mums, I could not stop crying. It was beautiful. Like, both our mums are shit, so let's just be each other's mums. I thought that was beautiful, actually, and a really touching scene. And I actually think Maeve and Amy's friendship is my favourite relationship in the whole entire series. It's just beautiful. Right, I'm going to talk about characters now because I need to talk about things. Let's talk about Eric. Eric wasn't very likeable in this series. It's really strange. I feel like Eric and Adam totally role reversed this series. Everything I felt about Adam last series is kind of how I feel about Eric now. I still love Eric, don't get me wrong, but he made a few questionable decisions this series, and it's kind of reflective of what being a teenager is. You do make a lot of mistakes, you do change your personality, sometimes you're not a very nice person, and Eric just wasn't a very nice person in this series. I didn't particularly like how he was with Adam when Adam kind of changed his mind about potentially having sex. I also didn't like that he broke up with Adam because he wasn't ready to come out. I understand that that is a problem, dating someone that hasn't officially come out as gay, but it's still quite sad to watch, and I honestly think if you loved someone as they were supposed to love each other, you would be happy to wait until they were ready. The character I fell in love with was Ruby. Just seeing a more vulnerable side of Ruby after seeing her being the most popular girl in the school, and just you got this kind of bitchy up herself kind of vibe from her in the first 2 seasons. But this season she really let her guard down and showed how vulnerable she was. The fact that she's a young carer and how her relationship with Otis kind of changed everything and her perspective on life, in regards to the fact that by the end of it, yes, they broke up, but her friends then came round to her house for the first time, and I'm assuming met her dad for the first time. So it kind of opened a lot of doors for Ruby. Spoke a little bit about Adam, his vulnerable side coming out as well, and him trying to break away from this toxic masculinity that he's got from his dad and finding his passion in the dog show. I mean, that was adorable. The whole scene with the dogs and Adam just being proud and finding something he was good at after trying to find something for so long was just adorable and a beautiful moment. And him trying to become more open and in touch with his feelings and really trying to improve that, not just for himself but for Eric too. Good growth. Another relationship I wanted to talk about was Jean and Otis. I think something really important was the fact that Jean spoke about how distant she felt from Otis and how she felt like their relationship had changed and she didn't feel as though he kind of needed her anymore. He was growing up. But then when she was in hospital having the baby and she became very ill, the real child came out of Otis again, and I think she realised how much Otis did still need her and how much you always do need your mum if you have that relationship with her. So I thought that was really cute. I want to talk about Jakob. I've seen a lot of things online that people are not liking Jakob this season. What? What? I love him. He is a widowed father who has just found out that he's having another baby with someone that he is not actually with anymore, and that she's about to give birth because she's left it so late to tell him. Like, give the man a break. Can you imagine what's going on in his mind right now? He has had like a few minutes to process this and Jean's about to give birth. I think he's incredible and I love him and I'm attracted to him, even though he's old enough to be my dad, but that's fine because I just like older men. Let's talk about Hope. I hated her, obviously. She was the Umbridge of sex education. From the very first kind of scenes where she assumed that Adam was head boy and not Jackson, I hated her. I hated her. Got bad feelings from her then. She gave me the ick and I was right. Like, she locked Cal in a room. What was that about? She made the students wear signs if she felt like what they'd done was wrong. Which, by the way, isn't even legal. And although the IVF part of the story is obviously a really important topic and not one that I think shouldn't have been included, I just thought it didn't feel very authentic and it didn't feel like it fitted in. I didn't feel like we cared about her enough to care about what happened to her. I know that sounds really awful, but I think the IVF story was meant to make us soften towards her and feel some kind of positive emotion as opposed to how much we hated her for the rest of the series. And I just didn't feel that. I still hated her, so I don't know. It is an important topic though, so I guess it's good that they have included it. I don't know, it just didn't feel right. Let's talk about Cal. Cal was one of my favourite new characters. They are just absolutely incredible. They bring all the sass. They just have such a fiery personality and I love them for it. I loved the fact when they were helping Layla with their binding. I thought that was a really great scene, just giving them tips, and it was really interesting to see two different non-binary people on different parts of their journey. Yeah, I think that was really good representation and really important representation. I think from my perspective as someone that isn't non-binary, it was really interesting for me to see and something that I want to learn more about. Especially as more people are now feeling confident enough to question their gender and to know who they are in life. I loved them and Jackson together. I think they were such a cute pairing, and I don't know, the ending where Jackson kind of said, I'm not happy to be called queer if we're in a relationship together, it didn't feel very Jackson-like to me. To me, I always felt Jackson would be very open and didn't think he would back away from a queer relationship. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. Obviously this is a fictional character that I do not know in real life, so it's not like I know him, but I just felt like his character from the first few seasons, that would be something he was comfortable with. But hey, I love Cal and hopefully in the future they can be together. Something I didn't think I would say, I warmed to Maeve this season. I absolutely loved her. I didn't like her the first 2 seasons, I have to admit. But this season I really warmed to her. I loved the storyline with Elsie and Anna, and I really liked the fact that Maeve kind of got a home that she felt welcomed into with her little sister as well. And at the end, when Maeve's mum actually helps her out for the first time in her life with something that's important to Maeve, I really think that was a pivotal moment for Maeve and how she progresses in life. So I'm really glad that she went to America. Back to Jean. Let's go back to Jean. We spoke about Jean and Otis. Let's talk about Jean on her own. She was pregnant this series and I loved pregnant, farting Jean. And I loved the older pregnancy rep too. Obviously that is kind of a taboo topic as well. When she almost died, I was heartbroken. And then the tables were turned and I almost died when she received that DNA letter and it doesn't look like Jakob is the father after everything he processed and was happy to have this baby and they were ready to start as a family, and he's not even the dad. Please let him be the dad. Please let that be a mix-up and please let him be the dad. Mr. Groff. Let's talk about Mr. Groff. So much development this series. He's been a very unlikable character in the first 2 series, so it was great to see his upbringing and kind of find out why he is the way that he is, how growing up in a very toxic masculine environment can make you into not a very nice person. And I think the time away from his wife or ex-wife gave him the chance to think about that and think about what he wants as a person. So it was really lovely to see him finding a love for something like cooking, especially as in his eyes that was seen as something a woman does. So for him to find a love for that, loved it. Very strange, isn't it? The main character for the first 2 series was definitely Otis, and in this series I really felt like he took a step back. Like him and Maeve have been such a main plot for the first 2 series, and now it just feels like that took a step back, maybe because I don't really care about them as much as other characters, but it definitely felt that way. Otis and Maeve give me massive Chloe Decker and Lucifer vibes from Lucifer. Just this will they won't they kind of thing. It's getting boring now, it's dragged out, like come on, do you want to or not? Amy, she is my favourite character. Just her appreciation of vulvas this season was just incredible. Like every vulva is unique. That was kind of her motto this series. I just friggin' love her. She's incredible. Adele's my favourite character. She's so funny, she's relatable. Her sexual assault story is really, really important. I think it's one of the most important storylines that has come out of sex education. But the only thing I will say is, poor Steve. She's gonna break up with Steve. Who would break up with Steve? I friggin' love Steve. Now I want a vulva cupcake. Speaking of vulvas, book recommendations. I forgot this was a bookish video as well. How to have feminine sex. And it's a fairly graphic guide. I'm not even sure if I should be showing the front of that. Oh, it's fine. There's nothing too graphic on there. And the first page I turned to, can't show you obviously, but it says all vaginas are beautiful. And there's a massive page of lots of different vaginas. Amazing. It is really illustrated and there is a lot of amazing things in there. Squirting, faking orgasms, one night stands, being a slut. I mean, it's amazing. And I would highly, highly recommend. I would say maybe be over 16 before you get this one because it is fairly graphic. Also, two more that I thought I would talk about. Another pretty illustrated one is Sex Ed by Ruby Rare, and this one is most definitely a guide for adults. There is a lot of adult content in here. Again, a lot of body positive pictures in here, absolutely beautiful ones. There's a lot of activities to do as well. Just any question that you ever had about sex, it's in here. It's amazing. I loved it. If you're looking for a more teenage approach, this one is called Sex Ed, an inclusive teenage guide to sex and relationships. Now this is a lot more teenage friendly and covers a lot more basic kind of things, but in a lot more detail than you would have learned at school. Basically, if I was at school now, this is exactly the book I would want to be reading because it is absolutely full of amazing things about sex. And not just sex, relationships, what is a positive relationship, there's loads about gender and consent, also about reproductive health, sexuality. It really covers everything that you're kind of starting to understand about yourself as you're turning into an adult. So yeah, if you're a teenager or just entering puberty, or even have a teenager yourself and want to know how to teach them, would highly recommend. Honourable mentions here, Lily. She was amazing, very backseat character this series I thought, and really underrated actually. I felt like she kind of just went under the radar and it was heartbreaking to see her identity kind of taken from her and everything that she was just kind of stripped away and just this shell of a person was left. Yeah, that was heartbreaking and I wish she'd had more of a journey than just seeing someone asking for an autograph and suddenly she's deciding to go back to how she was. I felt like she deserved more than that. Some funny things that I thought were just random and made me laugh. The poo scene, when Raheem chucks the poo out of the coach toilet and it hits the man's car. Could not stop laughing at that. That made me laugh for a long time. And it was gross. Cat being killed by the microwave, that really upset me. I just got a new kitten, so that wasn't very nice to see. Very random. Also, whilst we're talking about Raheem and Adam, anyone else shipping that? I'm shipping that so hard. Really hope Amy and Steve stay together. Really hope Jakob is the dad. Love the sibling relationship between Ola and Otis. Just, there's so much to talk about. It just don't possibly have enough time. But I do have some more book recommendations and I don't want this video to be really long, so let's show you my book recommendations that I have left. The next one is actually a book that featured in the third series of Sex Education, Come As You Are by Emily Nagoski. It got a shout out in this series and it's not hard to see why. The book is incredible. It explores women's sexuality. There's just so much in here that I didn't know about myself. And there's so many activities in here. And also, if you do like activities, the Come As You Are workbook, also by Emily Nagoski. Amazing. I think there's a new edition out of this, which I obviously don't have, but would highly recommend this one if you can get your hands on it. Just, it will transform your sex life. Even if you haven't got a partner, will still transform your sex life and help you grow as a person. So highly recommend Emily Nagoski. If you like hefty non-fiction books, A Curious History of Sex is a great place to start. I have not read all of this. I kind of dip in and out of chapters because it's just how kind of sex has evolved through time, and I mean through time. It's a lot about sex and vulvas. There's lots of great pictures and there's loads about sex toys and aphrodisiacs. Yeah, this is a hefty book, but I would recommend. And then the two books that I recommend the most are by Hannah Witton. I adore Hannah Witton. So Doing It by Hannah Witton and The Hormone Diaries by Hannah Witton are amazing sex positive books. She is incredible. This is full of anecdotes, confessions, answers to questions. There's lots of contributions from her audience in here. There's just stuff about everything from relationships to sex to gender. And I feel like this one is suitable for teenagers and adults because I enjoyed this as an adult, even though I still feel like a teenager. I am actually 27. Hannah Witton also has a podcast called Doing It, which I would highly, highly recommend if you like talking and listening about all things sex. Hormone Diaries is all about your periods, also about getting pregnant and the menopause, having sex on your period, all things like that. Again, this book is incredible and would highly recommend. You've probably seen me talking about Hannah Witton in previous videos because I feel like I talk about her all the time. And that is everything. Those are all my recommendations. If you have any other sex books, let me know. I feel like I'm going to have to end this video because the sun is about to blind me. Not good. So let me know any sex books that you enjoyed. Let me know who your favourite character is in sex education. And if you've made it this far, thank you for watching the entire video. If you like this video, don't forget to give it a like, comment, subscribe, all that usual good stuff. Also, you can turn on the notification bell to be notified when I upload new videos, which is usually about once a week. Hope you all have enjoyed this video. Let me know what you'd like to see more of on my channel, and I hope to see you all again soon. Thank you. Bye. I know I was crazy during this video. I am actually drinking tea, not coffee. Just having a crazy day. Talkative day.